Hey y'all, just got through with a workout, so what better time than to talk about activity as one of those foundational elements of health. I'm biased towards weight training. I think that's one of the best activities people can do. I've been doing it since I was 12 or 13 years old, so like I said, I'm really biased towards it. But there are a lot of great benefits we get from exercise. Obviously, it can help build muscle, it can help decrease fat mass. All those things are great. One other thing that it can do is when we build muscle or we exercise, we can bring in new satellite cells, and those satellite cells have undifferentiated mitochondria. All that means is that the mitochondria is healthy and it hasn't taken a certain state or form yet. We'll talk a little bit more about those different states, different forms of mitochondria when we talk about CDR, cell danger response. So we'll get to that hopefully in a few weeks here. But that just means we have new healthy mitochondria coming in, which means we can have new healthy cells, and then they can divide into other new healthy cells. And then hopefully that process keeps going, and then we stay healthy as long as we possibly can. One other thing that gets released when we exercise is brain derived neurotrophic factor. You'll see this abbreviated a lot of times as BDNF. And this helps us to grow new neurons, grow new synapses, helps with neuroplasticity. So those are all good things. We want to be able to think clearly. We want to be able to, be smart and do all these things as long as we can. So we need to build new neurons, new pathways, new synapses, and this is one thing that helps with that. And then this is also why you see kids learning so much. It's because of all the activity and movement. That movement actually helps our brains to learn and learn cognitive things as well, more mental things, not just physical. So there's a lot of benefits to weight training. That's not the only activity we can do or need to do. You know, we want to be able to just do things that come up in life. When you have to pick something up, when you have to move something. And so weight training can help with those things too, because it just helps us to be stronger. And so then when we're picking up something around the house, the likelihood of it being at our max, at our limit, is very, very low. It's probably going to be a very small or very low percentage of that. So now we can do that easily. And, a lot of house activities or things that need to be done around the house are more repetitive in nature. If it's at a lower threshold of our max, now we can do that multiple times before we start to get tired, before we start to have issues. If something's right there at your limit, you're probably only going to get that once, maybe a short rest, you can get another one, but then you're going to be cooked for a while and it's going to take a long time to recover from it. Um, Another good thing with kind of the strength training side of things, as we get older, I think a lot of the reasons why people fall is weakness. If you start to stumble, but you don't have those fast twitch muscle fibers anymore, then you can't respond and catch yourself. And so I think that's what happens a lot of times. People do stumble, something happens out of the blue, and then they can't catch themselves. Whereas if you keep training, keep doing those activities, the odds that that's going to happen go down. Obviously, there's not anything we can do that's going to completely prevent someone from falling ever in their life, but we want to try to stack the deck in our favor as best we can. But again, activity doesn't just mean lifting weights. A lot of people are not going to want to lift weights and don't want to. I understand that, that's fine. But our bodies were just made to move. So we've got to move in some way. Pick some activity that you enjoy. That's part of the reason why I do climbing on the wall behind me. I enjoy the movement aspect. I enjoy that physical part where you have to really try hard, dig in on things. What I really like about climbing too is the mental part where you have to figure out how to move and what's the sequence going to be. And if you watch some of the climbing videos I've posted, you'll see there's ways I came up with problems and moves I thought how it was going to go, but that wasn't the way to do it. There was a better way. And so I like that problem solving aspect. Another thing I really like as far as activity goes is just going for an easy walk or an easy bike ride. Most people live somewhere where they can walk around some. And so this will be more akin to the zone 2 cardio that people are talking a lot about now. You don't have to be going at this really high heart rate, and you really don't have to be breathing all that hard to get a lot of benefit from it. Working out in this or walking in this range, in this heart rate zone, I tend to keep it between like 100 to 130 beats per minute. That can actually help with recovery, and it can actually help to shift us from that sympathetic fight or flight state into a parasympathetic rest and digest state. So even just walking can make a big difference on that. What I always learn with that too is if you are going to do that same activity, but you're going to be on a bike or sitting down, go ahead and subtract 10 beats per minute from the heart rate, just because your body doesn't, or your heart's not having to work quite as much if you're sitting down versus standing up. So 100 to 130 if you're walking, 90 to 120 maybe if you're sitting down on a bike. Um, but that's something where you should feel better after you get done, or at least the same as when you started. Most time people will feel better because they just got up moving, got the blood flowing, and it wasn't that difficult. If you're getting to the point where you can't talk or carry on a conversation, you're probably pushing it a little bit too far. One thing I see with people a lot of times is they think workouts have to be extremely hard. If you're climbing or in the gym, you got to be grunting, or it's not count. It's not working hard enough. It doesn't really count. And I mean, if you're walking, that's nothing. You got to be running, and then you got to be running as hard as you can for as long as you can. And I've heard this quote. I don't know who said it first. I've seen it credited to Dr. Verkhoshansky. I've seen it credited to Charlie Francis. But the famous quote is, "Any fool can get another fool tired." It's real easy to get people tired. It's not real easy to give people exactly what they need to help them improve their health, improve their fitness, or whatever task it is they want to do. But a lot of times, if people aren't tired, they don't think they're working hard enough. And so sometimes giving them these easy things like just go for a 20-minute walk, it doesn't convince people that that's actually what they need. So sometimes you got to sell people on that. And I know there's plenty of stories where trainers have worked with athletes that were way overtrained. And I know one where he shared the story. The kid had to just be on an elliptical or a bike for months before he got to actually start lifting weights, start jumping, start doing some sprints, things like that. But it's because his body was just so worn out. And we're talking about like high school, college age, football athlete. And but he bought into the system and he did it. And then he was able to start doing these things and made tremendous improvements in his sprint times and his strength, jumping. So we got to lay that foundation, and that makes a big difference. A lot of times with that, people are getting into the high intensity intervals, and you've got to earn the right to get up to those high heart rates. If you don't, you run the risk of actually damaging things. Those high intensity intervals actually can damage mitochondria. There's just too much byproducts coming in. That lactic acid, just that acidic environment can damage the mitochondria and lead to some issues. So we want to try to avoid that, and we want to build up to that, make sure our body has that kind of buffering capacity for it. So there's going to be times where we need to work out really hard, but the vast majority of the time it's not that. So all the training montages you see with professional athletes, all that stuff looks really good and they're working really hard, but that's probably only 10-20% of their training. The other 80-90% is a whole lot lower and a whole lot easier. So we need to keep that in mind so we don't try going too far. So the main thing again is just remember, our bodies are made to move. They're not made to be still. If we're still, things start going downhill pretty quick. So find some activity that you enjoy, something that keeps you moving and lets you keep doing it for a long time. Like I said, I like to walk. I tend to walk about every day unless the weather's just so bad I can't. A lot of times I'll still just grab an umbrella and go walk in the rain. You can listen to podcasts or listen to something else. Listen to music. I try not to get too distracted by all that, just because I get to walk outside a lot and I've got some nice views. I get to see some animals from time to time. A lot of times I see deer. Luckily I've seen skunks, but haven't been sprayed by one yet. I've seen a raccoon before. Got a farm close by, so there's cows and a donkey and everything. So it's just kind of fun to see all the animals, see the different views, and just be present in nature. And so there's definitely some benefits just from that nature side of things too. So I hope this was a good overview of just being active, and that it doesn't have to be where you're sweating. It doesn't have to be where you're out of breath. It doesn't have to be where you're in pain. If you're truly training for something, to be the best rock climber you can be, to be the best sprinter, the best basketball player, or whatever else, then there's going to be some really hard work, and there's going to be times where you're sweating and you're tired and you're sore and you have worked extremely hard. but there's also going to be other times where you're working a lot less than that to help recover so you can do that next hard session. If you're not trying to be the best of some sport, then you can still work out. You can still do these different things. You can do it at an easier level and still get a whole bunch of benefits. If you were to back off just a little bit, you'll still get about what, 95% of the results. Pushing that extra hard probably only gets you a couple percentage points. So at the very elite, very top of the game, that 1 or 2 percentage points can be a huge difference. But for us normal people, 1 to 2 percentage points really doesn't make much of a difference at all. So anyway, that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this. It's starting to get a little cold out here, so I better go get a jacket. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.